Cathy Hughes is on the phone. Hey, Miss H.
Good morning. How are you? Hey, Sybil.
Okay,
Hey,
yeah,
Queen.
sad about Elijah
Yeah.
Cummings. I know you
And
had dealings with
stop.
Elijah Cummings just over and over again.
How far back did you go with Congressman Elijah Cummings, Mrs. Hughes?
Met him when we bought our first station in Baltimore, and he became our attorney. He was our lawyer.
Mm.
And then one day he came in and he said, listen, he was part of the reason people call me Miss H, because he shortened the Hughes to H. And he came in and said, listen, Miss H, got some bad news and some good news. I said, what's the good news? He said, I've decided that I'm going to form a committee and run for Congress. I said, that's wonderful. What's the bad news? He said, I can't be your lawyer anymore. I said, that's real bad news. Yeah, that's real bad news. He never ever stopped coming on our morning shows to talk about what was happening first in Baltimore, but then secondly, what was going on in Congress. Even during these busy days of him chairing the most important committee right now that we have in Congress,
That's right.
he still made time. He couldn't come in person, but he would still call into the Larry Young morning show. Larry had been a state legislator, and it helped him craft his first campaign. You know, such a loss, and particularly to Baltimore, because Baltimore is going through some really challenging and troubling times, even worse, in my opinion, than the entire United States. And he was such an integral problem solver for Baltimore and the United States.
Yeah. And he really was. He seemed to be just this is from the outside looking in and having met the congressman, but just from the outside looking in, he really was the heart, the conscience of the United States Congress.
Yes, the same way in Baltimore, a genuinely good guy.
Yeah.
You know, just a good heart. Wanted to. When I said to him, why would you run for Congress? That's a big pay cut. And he said, because I really think that I can make a change.
Yeah.
And that first year, because of the pay cut, because he's a prominent attorney, a brilliant, counselor. His daughter was a senior at the School of Communications at Howard. And her roommate came to me and said, listen, Elijah is really having a rough time right now, but he doesn't want to say anything. And she was our first Baltimore recipient of a scholarship that we do every year now. And she was the very first. Every time I saw him, he thanked me for that. I was like, Mr. Congressman, you don't thank me about 1,000 times. He said, no, I just want you to know that, at that very moment, I had to choose between service to my country and getting my daughter through college, and you solved that problem. That's the type of human being he was. He never forgot. He never stopped expressing his, love for Baltimore and this country and his appreciation for being able to serve. Just an incredible human being. I can't believe that he's gone. It's just hard for me to wrap my, mind around the fact that I'll no longer get to talk to him again. He structured a campaign. His wife ran for governor of Maryland.
Yeah.
And I had just seen her recently and asked her, was she going to, do it again? And she smiled and she said, we're talking about it. And I knew that meant she and Elijah were, consulting each other on it.
Mrs. H, I think that people know what a compassionate man he was, and as you said, a brilliant man. He was a Phi Beta Sigma scholar from Howard.
Yes, absolutely. Most people, Elijah wasn't one of those, sometimes our black intelligentsia, you're able to identify them by the tone of their voice and their attitude. He wasn't one of those. He was a boy from the hood. He was a boy from the block, okay? Nobody really, he didn't flaunt his brilliance. He didn't flaunt his commitment. He didn't flaunt, that he was confident in himself. He was a classic example in the true tradition of our, statesmen of yesteryear, the Adam Clayton Powells, and, that he knew who he was. He didn't have to show you or prove to you anything. He knew he was smart. I mean, he used to figure out things. I enjoyed conversations with him about things that didn't pertain to him getting to send me a bill.
And his health the years, the past few years, his health was, but he was still coming to work, and he was still getting on that bench. and giving Trump
Absolutely.
hell.
Absolutely. You know, it's interesting because I don't think that we pay enough attention to the stress, the wearing out of people who are on the front line battles like he was. Okay, we go, oh yeah, he was sick, but he's doing better now. You don't do better when that stress increases as opposed to you getting a break from it.
Yeah.
Okay, once your system has been compromised and you pass, a certain age point, I mean, he was under fire constantly. I'm sure that he couldn't rest well at night because, he had to figure out what was the next thing that he had to do in the morning to try to, quote, save our country.
Like playing chess.
like playing chess. Plus, it hurt him so bad. Baltimore right now ranks, Chicago and Baltimore compete for who can kill more people or shoot more people every day. And that bothered him very much. That was a constant theme with him when he, spoke to community groups that we have got to stop this violence in Baltimore. He loved his city. And it was so tragic when Trump challenged him about, Baltimore, because this man had done incredible things in Baltimore. Yep, remember that?
Yeah, but Mrs. Hughes, I often think that you're really getting to him, getting to the man there in the White House. When he comes back and he tweets out of control, you have reached a point in that spur that's just an irritant to him, and that's why he came back at Elijah Cummings. But Elijah Cummings always standing so tall and such a model of a grace under fire and like that duck under in the water, he was paddling, but just such presence and such a great role model for us as we go forward.
Yep, absolutely. I don't know that we get to the president. I have been convinced for quite some time now that these are diversionary tactics, that he just says crazy stuff to divert the attention of us in one direction while he's going in another. That bothers me very much, how we respond, and I saw Elijah shortly after that incident with Trump, and he said, I'm not paying him any attention, Cathy, and you all shouldn't either. Okay? Because the important thing is, what are you doing that is getting our country, our economy in trouble?
That's right.
God bless Baltimore. God bless black people in America. Rest in peace. Elijah Cummings.
Thank you, Mrs. Cathy Hughes, the one and only.
All right, Miss
Thank you so much. I love you.